All right. It's a pleasure to have you here. I was just let me introduce a little bit about myself and my company, Teldat. So I'm Sergio Peleato. I'm the CBO of cybersecurity unit here at Teldat. We are a Spanish company. For those of you who don't know us, we're located in Madrid. Um, we've focused mainly on cybersecurity and networking hardware and software. So we are a 100% European vendor. And right now, as it stands, last year results, we're present in more than 50 countries. So we've got over 40 years of experience in this field. We've been around the market for 40 years. Our presence is mainly in Europe and Latin America, but we're also present in Middle East, Asia, Africa, North America, etc., etc.
Very cool.
Okay. And we've been homologated this year in the GigaOm radar. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sergio. So obviously, I'm Chris Ray. I have about coming up on 15, maybe 20 years experience in cybersecurity. Spent a lot of time on the operations side, and then while working the help desk, studied network engineering, the CCNA, trying to get into that field because I was always fascinated by how two computers, one world apart, can seemingly talk to each other. It was always like magic to me. So the network angle has always drawn me in. Worked from help desk, sysadmin, network engineering, then transitioned into security, and have worked a variety of roles there from security analyst, engineer, architect to CISO, and now here at GigaOm as a practitioner analyst and a field CTO overseeing security and risk. I think it's important for you probably already know this from working with us on the research phase of this report, but the people watching may not know. All of the research here at GigaOm is practitioner led. None of us were professional analysts like other analyst firms. They specifically seek us out because we have that hard-earned wisdom, those late nights, those pager duty alerts that wake you up at 3 a.m. And from those late nights and hard-earned wisdom, we then take those lessons learned and distill them down into these reports as we do the research. And so because of that, the radar is really a buyer's guide. In the radar report, each vendor gets a capsule. That's what we call it. It's a portion of the report. And then their scores are published. We'll get into exactly how we do the scoring. But then, the ultimate result is that 360-degree radar graphic that you see left to right, top to bottom, with differentiation in there and nuance. And we can talk through that. I think probably the most important thing to remember, though, is there's a very famous analyst firm that produces another graphic. And in that graphic, up and to the right is always the best position to be in. Completely throw paradigm that does not exist in the GigaOm radar. Down and to the left can be a fantastic solution. Up and to the left, down and to the right can also be a fantastic solution. So just keep that in mind as we're talking through the nuance and the detail of what this buyer's guide, the radar report, means.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's great to know. I mean, what I used to say my father used to tell me that there's not a college as good as boots on the ground when it comes to cybersecurity, IT, network management, all these things. So it's great to know that you've got such an experienced team. So Chris, the first question I wanted to ask you, from your experience here, based on your work experience and your GigaOm experience, what is right now the situation in the cybersecurity world, specifically for the next generation firewall landscape, et cetera, et cetera?
I'd say maintaining observability and also improving management of your various firewall appliances, your physical stuff, but also your virtual, and then finding ways to mature or evolve. I'm not going to say revolutionize. It's not really a revolution. It's more of an evolution into those more advanced features that you get with like SASE or SSE. No longer is it just good enough to be, deploying firewalls that are ACL based and looking at, just layer 3 or just layer 4. You really need a comprehensive solution that reduces friction for the end users, but also simplifies operation for the engineers.
Okay. And what are the main decision points when in the industry when some clients or somebody has to make a decision as to which next generation firewall to go for?
Yeah, so I feel like you're teeing me up here. That's a great question. It's a great introduction to talk more about the radar. So, as we do our research in the radar, one of the challenges that we face is how do we determine what is and what is not an enterprise firewall? It sounds silly because I think everyone can imagine what an enterprise firewall is, but we need to literally define what it is and what it is not. In order to do that, we use table stakes. Table stakes are a binary yes or no answer to the question of, do you have this capability? Either you are an enterprise firewall and you have to meet all the table stakes, or you are not, and therefore you're not included in the report. In this case, table stakes for enterprise firewalls: threat prevention, application awareness and control, logging and reporting, support for VPN, and then sensor management. So that's the fundamentals. You have to have that. There's no differentiation really if you're shopping for an enterprise firewall vendor, just to analyze those capabilities. When we start talking about, well, okay, since we've defined the space, we now know what these devices are. We've defined the fundamental components. We use something called key features, and really we call them key features, but you can think of them as differentiating features. So you can look at the radar. You can see the 15, 20, 25 vendors that are in a report, because we have many reports. And you can say, okay, these all look like great names. I recognize some of them, but how do I know which ones are the right fit for me? And that's where the key features come in. Specifically for this report, we don't evaluate every single feature capability in a firewall. As you can imagine, that list would be hundreds of capabilities long. We really just need to laser focus on the handful that are going to be most impactful in a purchase decision process. In this case, we're looking at SD-WAN support, automation for the management of the platform, enterprise security stack integration, performance and throughput, ZTNA or zero trust networking, the threat analytics component, DDoS, DNS security, and identity-based inspection and control. So taking those capabilities, what we do then is we assess each vendor solution on a scale of 0 to 5. 0 is they don't execute on that capability at all. It's not available in the feature in the solution. 5 is they're exceptional, demonstrably better than everybody else. And you can think of 3 as meets expectations. It's average. It's typical. It's not bad. It's not phenomenal. It's going to do what you expect it to do. Once we have all those key features scored, then that's what really results in the positioning that you see on the radar. So, if we want to kind of just laser focus on one of these, one of the areas that we identified Teldat as exceptional in is your zero trust networking capabilities. They're built in, they're comprehensive, they're available, and they have additional security controls available for those who want them, like DLP functionality. That is just something that you don't see every single day, and that's really something that stood out to me during this research with Paul.
Okay, that's really great to know. Could you go a little bit deeper in what you found regarding ZTNA capabilities during the making of this report?
Yeah, so there's, when we're talking about ZTNA, especially with a firewall vendor, because there's standalone ZTNA solutions and then there's firewall-based ZTNA solutions. One of the things is being able to reduce friction for your users. Obviously, that's the rip and replace. We have VPNs. We're going to migrate to ZTNA. How do we ensure that this is a seamless experience for our people? Leaning on your existing firewall vendor, or in this case, the acquisition of something like a Teldat to replace your existing firewalls and move to ZTNA at the same time. That can be an easy win. One of the other things that I really looked at is there's just like this report here with enterprise firewalls, we define table stakes and key features. For ZTNA, we also have a separate report, not included in this, but for ZTNA, we break out key features for that as well. And one of the key features in that report is actually talking about ancillary security controls, such as DLP and the abilities that that can give you, it's often overlooked. When you deploy ZTNA, it's focused on, well, let's get continuous assessment of what our users are doing. Let's make sure that we're applying zero trust principles to connections. Let's get observability into that. But then the missing piece is, well, we're doing all this work. We're already there on the endpoint, or we're already there at the connection. Why don't we start looking at how can we control data loss? Because we're literally in the mix. So why not do that? So to me, that was a very big differentiator. It's just one of those steps that 90% of the work is getting ZTNA deployed. To go and integrate or deploy additional controls like DLP, it's only 10% of the work, but you can get 50% of this security benefit from doing that at that time.
Yeah, that's I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's one of the feedback that we've been provided by our clients. So from our experience, okay, when we go to the market, a lot of our clients are having, well, there have been a lot of VPN vulnerabilities lately. I think in the last 2024, if I remember correctly, there were north of 400,000 vulnerabilities and
Sure.
type of attacks regarding this sort of features. So we are seeing the demand from the market for an extra layer of security regarding connection, especially after COVID, that a lot of companies are incorporating a lot of remote workers, a lot of displaced workers that are working sometimes in another city, sometimes in another country even. So the old way of visualizing network communication cybersecurity that everyone wants at the office, just put a firewall in the office and that's it, that's pretty much obsolete. So we work mostly with big accounts, banking, administrations, et cetera. And one of the things they tell us is like, look, I have a data center, I have a next generation firewall, but as soon as we have someone steals some credentials, someone breaks the VPN because of some vulnerability that has been published like 24 hours ago, their entire intranet gets exposed. They connect to the intranet, and they can have almost unlimited access to service vulnerabilities that might be exposed, etc. So for us, ZTNA has been very well received as a demand from the market. We are not seeing yet a full implementation, meaning that the clients are still playing with the idea. They see the need, they see the advantages that ZTNA can bring, but they're still in the process of adopting it. So I think this is going to be rather important in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah. I'm seeing the same thing. There's I think I've seen a survey. I don't remember who produced it, but it was like 60% or 70%, a number around there, of the enterprises are still reliant on VPN for critical functions. And that's a real eye opener when you realize, because we've been hearing ZTNA for 10 years. We've been, it's stream. I feel like its value is known and understood. It definitely increases your security capabilities. It increases your observability into those network connections. It streamlines user functions. It makes things easier for your end users. But yet only 30-40% of the market has adopted ZTNA to the point where it's overshadowing VPN. And even of the 30-40% that have adopted it, they still have VPN in some instances for some connections. And it's just wild to me. It's like, people are having a hard time acknowledging they have a problem. You need to raise your hand and be like, "Hi, I'm Chris. I still use a VPN. I need help." It's almost that bad now. So I agree with you. There's a lot of potential for security improvement and user improvement still left for a lot of enterprises that haven't adopted or migrated to a ZTNA. The real challenge, I think, a lot of people see it as, and they get overwhelmed. It's probably the best way to describe it, is moving from VPN to ZTNA. And I can talk for an hour just about strategies around that, because it's such a hassle and it's such a concern. It's such a huge risk. But that's probably, if people are watching this and they're thinking like, yeah, we're in that boat, what do we do? acknowledge that, yeah, it can feel overwhelming. You just need to chunk it up, do a pilot, get some feedback, adjust, and expand. Really get executive buy-in to get off your VPN.
Yeah, so I'm fully on board with your opinion. I mean, regarding touching migration and adoption of ZTNA that you just mentioned, from our experience, one of the difficulties or one of the most challenging difficulties that the market is seeing right now is that when they're going to implement ZTNA in some organization, a lot of ZTNA solutions in the market have been built by one company buying 3-4 startups and then trying to integrate that software as fast as possible into their portfolio, and that can work. But if you don't have native development for the VPN integration, the networking configuration, the policies and everything, it usually leads to service interruptions, bugs that are raised in the client, etc., etc. Here in Teldat, we have gone the other way. Like, all the developments and all the functionalities that we have brought into the market are being developed here natively, and I think that's been one of the key differentiators that you've brought in your report, that the integration between all of our software components regarding cybersecurity, DLP, CTNA, CASB, and next generation firewall, is native to our company. We haven't bought any third-party software. We haven't bought any third-party company. Everything is developed here. And from my experience, that's a feature, that's a functionality that's being very well received in the market. Because one thing is the theoretical CTNA that works in the lab, the hello world experiment that everyone usually does. And another thing is when you go and implement CTNA natively in an organization that has 2,200 different offices. That's usually a very complex network and cybersecurity configuration. And the adoption and the implementation of such feature in such organizations usually takes years in some cases. We've been able to reduce the impact and the duration of such adoption to merely weeks in some of our clients. So I think that's been a success story for us in Teldat.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw the same thing, during our research. Zero touch provisioning is such a major component. Kind of rewinding a little bit here, and you're talking about how you built these capabilities from scratch, as opposed to other strategies, which is the acquisition and integration of startups or competitors to obtain ZTNA capabilities. The difference, and I'm going to use an analogy. This may be a North American concept, an American concept, but we have this concept of like scratch-made food, like food that's at a restaurant. That's all the ingredients are put together in the restaurant to deliver a higher quality meal, as opposed to putting together ingredients that have already been prepared somewhere else and then delivering a meal that way. That's really, if you can visualize that, that's the difference between the acquisition approach of acquiring a ZTNA company and folding it into your technology portfolio, as compared to your approach, which was let's build it from scratch to produce a higher level product or a more robust product. It's going to take more time. It's going to take more effort, but the end result is ultimately worth it. And that's across the board, not just networking, but the other topics that I research in: XDR, ASM, EDR, vulnerability management. That's a very common theme. When you see a vendor build a capability natively on their own, not the acquisition game, you generally find that the output of that effort is a higher quality product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's been the case, at least for us, when talking with our clients, not just in the implementation, but just also in the operation you were mentioning. So one of the things that we found in the industry is that you can have a very high accuracy when it comes to threat prevention, but then the operation introduces a new complexity vector, if you may, when it comes to executing a cybersecurity solution. So one of the key features that allow us to improve in that regard, and I know you mentioned in your report, is the self-virtual patching. Like we're saying in the industry when we started with this endeavor, we're seeing in the industry that, yes, there were a lot of vendors that had very high accuracy and very potent antivirus and ADS, IPS engines. But when implemented in the real world, especially in critical services companies such as electrical grid companies, water supplies and all that, every cybersecurity solution requires an update. No matter which operating system you use, at some point you're going to have some vulnerability. And in these kind of environments, banking, electricity, water supply, upgrading this security solution is an absolute nightmare, because as I was saying, if you have 22 different or 30,000 points that you need to stop, upgrade the operating system because you found some vulnerability, and then bring it back up, it seems almost impossible. So the technology that we implemented natively, that I think it's also, you've also found in the report quite valuable, is the capacity to patch this. Of course, we do have our vulnerabilities like any other operating system, but the capability to patch these vulnerabilities dynamically, so that when it comes to the operation-wise, the users and they don't have to upgrade the operating system. They just have to update the threat signatures, and our own OS vulnerability gets patched, so that in this kind of environments, when it comes to operations, it's a much easier management and a much easier life cycle, which at the end results in a much higher security configuration, because you can have the most potent antivirus there is and the most potent next generation firewall. If you are 10 versions behind and you have a list of vulnerabilities that are published in the internet for your version of the operating system, your own firewall is going to become the point of entrance for security threats.
Yeah, totally agree there. Virtual patching can be a game changer. You know, the way I see it, there's two lenses on this. You kind of touched on a little bit the OT security side, which you know, just as let's sort of setting the table so we can talk about this for a second. In enterprise security, you know, we're all familiar with the CIA triad: the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability components of your security fundamentals. In OT or IoT, it's really kind of flipped around. You know, the CIA triad starts with confidentiality because that's generally emphasized and prioritized over everything else. In OT, it's backwards. You're starting with availability. Availability is so important. Downtime for patching can cost millions of dollars a minute, or it can interrupt basic services for you know, a government or a municipality. That any kind of downtime, especially if it's unscheduled, can be catastrophic. So when you start talking about in an OT environment, the ability to inline virtually patch or, you know, virtually fix a security vulnerability, that's a game changer. You're no longer forced to make a decision between security risk and availability. You can say, okay, we've already got a scheduled patching window in 3 months, or, you know, whatever it is, 30 days. We can mitigate that risk until we're going to do our scheduled patching anyways, not create any more downtime, but still eliminate that risk for now. So that's one side of it. I often think is overlooked for OT security professionals. The other side of it is so many enterprises have a concept of like a security risk register, where they've identified risks, right? They need to track them so they don't forget about them. But at the same time, maybe it's a medium. Maybe they've got 3 months to fix it. Maybe it's a low. They've got 6 months to fix it. But in the meantime, nobody wants to leave that out there just because it's a low or a medium. So again, virtual patching, buy you some time, reduce that risk in the meantime until you get your team's capacity to the point where they can fix those mediums and lows, or even, like you said, a 0 day or near 0 day, higher or critical. Maybe it's on a system that can't be down until the weekend, and you've got 4 days until you get there. Virtual patching is such a game changer in those instances.
Yeah, and the amount of time that security teams have between finding a vulnerability and fixing it, I think it's going to be dramatically reduced in the following years. I don't know if you've read about this GTG 1002. It's
No, I haven't seen this one yet.
I've read that it's been the first attack that has been orchestrated by an AI. I think it actually affected a lot of enterprises in the US. But what they did is they took a bunch of empty NCP servers and through jailbreaking and some other techniques they forced the LLMs to analyze the vulnerabilities into a system and penetrate and steal credentials and do a humongous amount of damage in a lot of organizations. So this is the first attack, but it's going to be more prevalent as time comes by. I think Anthropic published an article about it. So what you were mentioning, like, okay, this is a medium, this is a low, but we have 3 months to fix it. In the following years, you're not going to have 3 months to fix it. You're going to have 3 days, because one of the key differentiators of this attack was that the rate at which LLMs could attack the cybersecurity infrastructure and the software architecture of these companies was astonishing. Like CMs can usually correlate these events after 15, 30 days, depends on your configuration. But this was being done in a matter of hours or days at tops. So the capacity to automate, detect, and react to this type of attacks, and that's what sort of virtual patching comes along, I think it's going to be critical in the coming years.
Yeah, and that's really interesting that you brought up that specific scenario. Although I wasn't aware of that that campaign that you just talked about, we were talking about internally here at GigaOm this concept of like an AI firewall. It's going to emerge, and it's going to act like a real-time circuit breaker that works at machine speed against agentic attacks, like you were just talking about. Ill-enforced governance at runtime for autonomous AI agents, and hopefully prevent those kinds of risks from compromising identities. But I feel like that's quite a ways off. We're not there yet, but I do feel like this air quote AI, not that it's AI powered, but it's built to prevent those style of machine speed attacks that happen so quickly. I do think that's going to be an emerging technology that we'll see maybe 4 years out. I'd love to hear your opinion on that, being the people who are building this technology.
So in our case, we're already starting to develop AI functionalities in order to detect and to countermeasure these kind of attacks. Because as I said, the amount of time that you have to react to these sort of attacks is going to be extremely reduced. Humans, this is just more my personal opinion, okay? But the humans are not going to be able to properly analyze and deploy adequate countermeasures to these sort of attacks. So from the Teldat side, we're already investing into different type of zero-day detection and reaction models. One of our top endeavors that we hope to deploy early next year is going to be we've developed some LLM technology that instead of focusing in what the system does, which is the indicators of compromise, usually other vendors do, we analyzed what the IT traffic is saying through our next generation firewalls. We decrypt the information. We apply a language model to the IT language, and we try to detect harmful or suspicious activity in the language that is being transmitted. So this is the most advanced feature that we're working on. But I think that the market is going to have to evolve into these kind of endeavors, these kind of cybersecurity measures in order to be able to detect these sort of attacks. And obviously, once you have detected them, you can analyze them and you can automatically deploy countermeasures, which we can already do through a XDR integration. That includes pushing new policies to next generation firewall, to the ZTNA, to CASB, et cetera. But if you're not able to properly and early detect them and react to them automatically, which is what we're doing here in Teldat, I think you're not going to be able to properly protect your clients in the future.
Yeah, that speed is really what's important. There's an ancillary or a side effect to this as well, kind of related. And I don't want to go into this too far, but I'd like to get your opinion on this. The things that you've just described have historically been human led. The detection and the control of these risks with an AI firewall, air quotes again.
Mm-hmm.
That's removing those tasks and those jobs from the human and putting it into the hands of some sort of AI technology. So the role of the human is going to evolve. It's going to shift, right? We really think it's going to be one where humans are going to provide oversight, ethical oversight, for example, or exception management. As these more autonomous, maybe fully autonomous, self-improving ecosystems of firewalls kind of shape and react to those AI attacks that you were just talking about. That's going to be, not now, not in the next year or so, but it will impact your buying decisions as like, okay, what is this actually doing for us from a capabilities perspective? And how will my operators of this platform adapt to it in a meaningful way? I think that's going to be a really important consideration. But again, I'd like to, see if you guys have thought about that.
We have thought about it, and we've talked about our clients regarding this topic. So, if you ask me, from my experience with talking with the market, with the client, it's going to depend on what environment these files are going to be deployed. For example, there are some environments in which network configuration they prioritize being secure rather than being operational. This could be maybe some small banking, or just apply to small offices that it's not as critical if some small banking office in some small town gets their communication cut. I'd rather be securing that way. And there are all the type of clients, as I was saying, like electrical grids or water companies, that if you impact their operation, it's going to be catastrophic. So the capacity for the AI to take autonomous decisions, I think we're not going to see that yet. There's always, at least for now, going to be a human that validates the decisions that the AIs are going to make. And the capacity for the AIs to take autonomous decisions will slowly keep improving over time. But there's going to be certain environments that it's just not going to be there, because any AI is a probabilistic model, and if they do a little change, they can bring down the entire power grids. And even you can exploit the AI decision tree making to provoke these kind of shutdown decisions. So I think the future in the AI environment is going to be a mixture between very savvy human employees and very advanced and very complex AI models and AI LLM approaches.
Interesting. Okay. I'm going to fold that into my my research moving forward. I appreciate the your take on this.
Glad to contribute. Okay. So, I mean, Chris, those were my 2 cents regarding the the cybersecurity and AI landscape. I don't know if you have anything else that you'd like to speak about.
Yeah, one of the key takeaways from our research into this is, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, is the evolution of firewall capabilities. There's the line between next gen firewall, which is kind of a marketing term that came up about, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, and SASE or SSE. That line's getting blurred, right? It can be difficult to differentiate between the two, and from a practical standpoint, it may not even be necessary to say yes, this is an enterprise firewall, and yes, this is a SASE or SSE solution, because ultimately they're solving for the same use cases. So from that perspective, as a buyer, it doesn't really matter to them, as long as they're fixing their security issues. And that's one of the things that we identified Teldat as being, again, a 5 out of 5 exceptional at, is your SASE integration. You've already got a very strong full SD-WAN and SSE solution, coupled with your physical appliances or your software firewalls, that can help this accelerate this trend that I'm seeing in the space among many buyers, almost all buyers, which is moving towards a vendor or consolidating your security tooling with a single vendor. It simplifies so many aspects of security operations, not just from the actual operational perspective, but the acquisition, the management, the ongoing overhead required to maintain different relationships with different vendors. That can be stressful for different organizations. So unifying and consolidating into a single vendor, that's a popular choice, not just in the enterprise firewall market, but like I said before, XDR, ASM, pen testing as a service, whatever topic you want to talk about. Finding a vendor that can help you consolidate like that. And I know you've touched on this. You guys have an XDR solution that is fully integrated with your firewall solutions. That could be, again, a real game changer for a lot of organizations looking to simplify their security operations. So that's an area I wanted to call out.
So yeah, that's a great point. So for the key difference, I think, when it comes to us against other vendors, is that in the cybersecurity world, other vendors started as cybersecurity enterprises, and then slowly migrated, adapting new networking capabilities. You mentioned SD1. We can go into other networking capacities. We did the reverse. We started as a networking company, building networking communication device, routers, SD1, and then we migrated to cybersecurity. So the integration between our next generation firewall and all of our networking features, it's pretty much exceptional, because we did from the hardware design to operating system to the UI. We've done it all internally. We have 40 years of experience regarding networking capabilities, and then we have incorporated cybersecurity. So when it comes to the large organizations that we used to work with, traditionally they had the networking department and the cybersecurity department. These were two different departments that each had their own priorities, they each had their own issues. But lately, in the last 5 to 10 years, what we've seen is that these two departments have merged into one. Banks, power grids, administrations, they no longer understand communications and cybersecurity as two separate issues. They're the same. You cannot have communications with cybersecurity, and cybersecurity has to be fully integrated with communications. So in this regard, Teldat does offer a fully integrated and fully native solution for both sides, the communication and the protection of such communication. And yeah, I mean, it's a topic that we've been working rather harshly at every stage of our developments, and that our clients have really appreciated that. I mean, if I have to put you an example, we recently last year started working with RSI. For those of you who don't know, RSI is not a large organization. It's a conglomeration of really small banks all through Spain. They have like 25 different offices, I think, but it's not 25 different offices centrally controlled, but rather they have like, I don't know, 100 different networking and cybersecurity departments. So just networking wise, this was an extremely complex project, let alone the security. I think this has been a rather successful story for us, because they came from a previous vendor that they had struggled for years to have a comprehensive communication and cybersecurity solution. And for us, it just took a couple of months to implement all the SD1 and cybersecurity. And they've been operating for the last year without no cybersecurity incident, no penetration, no successful attacks, and no downtime time other than small offices instances that have been quickly solved. So for us, it has been a really successful enterprise. It's a demonstration of the full integration that we have right here in Teldat.
Yeah, and that's again one of the key features that we evaluated. We call it management automation, but it's basically what you just described there, which is that centrally managed capability for those large enterprises, for those large networks with extreme complexity, where you're dealing with 100 or more, 1,000 or more firewall. instances, ensuring comprehensive application of your security policies across those is a nightmare unless you have a sound foundation of centralized management and reporting and visibility into those configurations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And again, moving forward, I think, especially in large organizations, the capacity to have a central management for a diverse cybersecurity landscape, let alone integration with all the peripheral cybersecurity solutions such as ZTNA, CASB, agents, XDR, etc., etc. It's going to be a must, not just from the management side, but because as we were saying before, the AI attacks are going to require for all the cybersecurity and networking components to be able to speak easily with each other and to be able to provide a full visibility and management across the board.
100% agree there.
Okay. Well, Chris, I don't know if you have any other topic, but from my side, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And I hope we can keep working together in the future.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure, Sergio. Thank you again for participating in our research and giving us all the time that you've given us so far and invited me to this webinar today. This is a topic near and dear to my heart, so I'm always excited to talk about this.
Pleasure is mutual, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.